Hello, I'm Congressman Robert Pittenger. I'm holding a letter that several of my colleagues and I sent to the U.S. Navy last month, expressing our deep concern that the Navy had recommended a secular humanist to serve as a chaplain. Thankfully, following our letter from the Congressional Prayer Caucus, the Navy backed down. However, this is just another example of the challenges that our nation faces today from the secular left and those opposed to biblical truth. This is why your work as pastors and your willingness to advocate for the preservation of our Judeo-Christian heritage and culture is so vital. I grew up in a home that went to church but really didn't know Christ. Someone shared the love of Christ with me my senior year in college. Since that day, I've endeavored to live by faith in Him and proclaim biblical truth. For the first 10 years after college, I served on the staff of Campus Crusade for Christ, working primarily as assistant to Dr. Bill Bright. Part of my mission with Dr. Bright was launching the Christian Embassy ministry here in Washington, a ministry which continues today. Following my work with Campus Crusade, I was asked to serve as executive director for the National Affairs Briefing, which in 1980 brought 20,000 evangelical pastors and lay leaders to Dallas, Texas, to organize and unite in our efforts to restore America's biblical culture. Our theme was from 1 Samuel 17:29, when young David stepped out in faith to take on Goliath. Is there not a cause? Ronald Reagan addressed this group as a Republican nominee for president, with Jerry Falwell, James Kennedy, Adrian Rogers, W.A. Criswell, Tim and Beverly LaHaye, Pat Robertson, E.V. Hill, and many other leaders participating in this two-day conference. Moral majority and the, quote, Christian right were launched from this meeting. A few years later, in 1983, I was asked to organize a dinner here in Washington to be co-hosted by James and Susan Baker to introduce Jim and Shirley Dobson to congressional and other government leaders as Dr. Dobson took over the reins of the Family Research Council. In the early 1980s, I also served as executive director of the STEP Foundation, a mission launched by my longtime friend, Dr. E.V. Hill, to build support from the suburban church in the evangelical community to the urban poor. Then, following a 20-year business career, I believe I was prepared to serve in public life. As a member of the North Carolina Senate for 3 terms, I helped lead efforts to protect the right to life, safeguard the sanctity of marriage, and oppose the lottery. Barbara Holt, president of North Carolina Right to Life, was an invaluable resource, and we continue to work closely together to this day. Now, as a member of Congress, I serve with Congressman Chris Smith, chairman of the Pro-Life Caucus, in our leadership in our pro-life efforts. One of my current projects is advancing legislation that I introduced to block Planned Parenthood's access to tax-exempt, taxpayer-backed infrastructure bonds, which have previously been used to provide below-market financing for abortion clinics. In my congressional role, I work closely with the National Right to Life Committee on complex pro-life issues, including the recent omnibus, and appreciate the respect and support they've offered me for my efforts. Here are the facts about the omnibus, conveyed in a letter to me by National Right to Life Committee that I believe would be of interest to you. The omnibus did not designate or specify a single dollar to Planned Parenthood. There is no one line item funding for Planned Parenthood in that bill. We were successful at blocking liberal efforts to force states to give discretionary grants to Planned Parenthood. Our ongoing fight, and where we need your prayers, relates to mandatory automatic spending included in the Medicaid program. We actually reformed and partially blocked this mandatory spending in the American Health Care Act last year in the House by relegating it to the states through block grants, which was part of our effort to repeal Obamacare that died in the Senate. We have the votes in the House. Sadly, there are not currently 60 pro-life votes in the Senate to eliminate the mandatory automatic Medicaid funding related to Planned Parenthood. The National Right to Life Committee has provided a detailed letter on this issue, and I encourage you to go read it by visiting my website, pittenger.house.gov, or just call my office at 704-362-1060 for a copy. We face many challenges from the secular left and those opposed to biblical truth. While we have been successful in many pro-life endeavors, including our work with President Trump to strengthen the Hyde Amendment and the Mexico City policy, there is much more that must be done. We must work together with the courage and spirit of young David facing Goliath? Is there still not a cause that rings true today, which requires the best of all of us? Thank you, and God bless you.